Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Aries taking place on September 29th at 5:57 a.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Please check a time zone converter for your local time. Real quick, this week's calendar is open. And once again, this is very rare that the calendar is open to receive bookings just before illumination. So if you want to look at the upcoming eclipse cycle, the changes that will bring into your life, because eclipses do, in fact, precede divine intervention. And the remaining of the three eclipses that are coming after the eclipse on October 14th, now is the time to get in my calendar. We can have a look at all of it and break it down together. Our full moon here. Oh, and you can book at K Moon Astro. Forgot to say that part. Link is below the video. Full moon, 6 degrees of Aries. This full moon is very interesting because it's a relatively unaspected full moon. Normally, the full moon has conversations with multiple of the major other planetary bodies, but at this lunation, those of you who are students of astrology or listen to several different astrologers will find that they're going to be reporting on this in very unique and different ways, depending upon which heavenly bodies they choose to incorporate and fold in, because none of the major planets are featured in conversation with it. Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, none of them are in conversation here. So, because there are only asteroid aspects, and so here we see Pallas and we see the Shaman's asteroid directly opposite. We also see a sextile to Cheroklo. We see a square to Vesta here in Cancer. And we see a square to Pholus also in Capricorn. Because we have all of these very minor heavenly bodies in aspect to this full moon, this is going to make this full moon far more personal than a collective experience. So let's break down these asteroids one by one so you can have an understanding of their influence and how this may play out. And it's already personal because Aries is the sign of the personal. It's the sign of the individual or the sign of the self. The strongest influence is going to be Pallas, directly opposite at the 7th degree of Libra. Pallas provides a very protective influence. And in Libra, it's protective with regard to our relationships, our one-to-one partnerships specifically. And the second strongest aspect is going to be Cheroklo here, because Cheroklo at that 8th degree of Aquarius is bringing loads of divine intervention, loads of collective support. It's not surprising to me that heading into this full moon in Aries, we just got word here in the United States that the writers who have been on strike since late spring in Hollywood have reached a tentative deal that could be the template for ending the actors' strike as well. Prayers up, fingers crossed. We also see here that we've got Makemake, known as the Shaman's asteroid, the 9th degree of Libra. He's the next most influential. So we're working in degrees away from the 6th degree, which is where the moon sits in Aries. We've got at the 9th degree of Libra, we've got the Shaman's asteroid, bringing forward and emphasizing lessons that we have had to learn in our partnerships, lessons that are hard won, about fairness, balance, justice, and specifically being fair to ourselves. There's that full moon in Aries and that self theme again. And where we have been unfair to either ourselves or others may show itself at this time, where we've given ourselves short shrift, written ourselves off, undermined our capacity to be in a capable partnership, or even written other people off, given them short shrift, undermined their capacity to be in equitable partnership with us, where we've been less than our best or less accountable to ourselves. This may really show itself since this is a full moon that's about itself. Then, lastly, we've got this Vesta influence. Second to lastly, here's Vesta in Cancer. Vesta is all about dedication, Cancer, about our emotional investments. And with regard to our commitments, since we're talking about a partnership related full moon in Aries that's focused on how we personally have been showing up, there's revelation here about we or others are coming up short in dedication and follow through, where we need to step it up or we need to dial it back to create alignment. There'll be clarity here about our emotional investment and correction about where we can better align or make congruence in our emotional investments. Lastly, here's our friend Pholus down here. And Pholus will be revealing where our emotional needs, that's the moon, emotions and needs, may have backfired. And I use needs in air quotes here, or undermined what we're really going for. I explain this in my practice a lot privately with clients, but I've also explained it sometime in various full moons as they require, or new moons, that we have true needs and we have trauma needs. If we have grown up, let's just say you grew up in a house where, um, you every time you walked into a room, before you could say anything to anyone in your family, somebody had to pelt a red ball at you, throw it at you as hard as they could. And this went on for the entirety of your life. Or maybe it just happened once, hard enough and injuriously enough, where it created an imprint in your mind that red balls are dangerous and scary. We can then move into our adult lives and find ourselves making it a prerequisite requirement or a need of anyone who wants to share space with us that they can never, ever, ever bring a red ball around us. We will flinch, we'll shut down, we'll exit the room, we'll burst into tears. We lose our capacity to be our true, full, strong, capable, functioning, divine creator selves in the presence of that red ball. So we make it a need. You want to be with me? No red balls. With that kind of need unfolding, that's what we call, or what I call, I've never heard anyone refer to this in this way. It's what I call a trauma need. And with a trauma need in play during this particular lunation, it will get exposed to you as the reason or the holdback in any major partnership with Pholus in the conversation and Vesta in the conversation as it's been, especially because we are at the tail end of this Venus retrograde. She's coming out of shadow. Venus deals with love. And so she's got a few more degrees left. She'll be fully out of the retrograde zone by about October 3rd. But there was a lot of revelation that would have come in for us about where we are at in love and why we are in that place. Also about money when it comes to Venus, specifically as we get into this full moon in Aries. This is a tie back or a callback to the lessons that would have appeared during the Venus retrograde, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a moment. But the major thing to understand is that now with Venus direct and the lesson have the experience having delivered the information you needed for your lesson. Whatever your Venus retrograde lesson was, the experience delivered it already. Now's the time for forward movement and momentum. If you had a sideways Venus retrograde financially, I really want to encourage you that now is the time to take the lesson that you got from that experience and drive forward with new choices rather than using the experience as an excuse to play safe or hold back. If you had a sideways Venus retrograde in love, take the opportunity to get the lesson out of it and use this full moon in Aries. In both cases, money or love, close out any behavioral cycles that have undermined your capacity to be where you want to be. The Venus retrograde is well and truly done, but if we are playing it safe or moving slow, we're going to miss some of the opportunities unfolding during this solar eclipse coming up on October 14th, because that solar eclipse energy has been available at least for a month now. And this full moon in Aries, since it's the same sign as it's got actually a solar eclipse in Libra, it's the opposite sign. This is really going to give us the opportunity to milk that eclipse. Solar eclipses are new beginnings. Milk that eclipse for all it's worth and bring down a course correction inside of our relationships and financial world. But it's going to be built upon the full moon in Aries energy, which we've got now, which has a lot of revelation coming off of that Venus retrograde to help us solidify, here's your lesson, here's how you course correct, here are your new choices to move forward. Hopefully I did a good job explaining that. We have 7 placements in cardinal signs. Cardinal energies respond to what life throws at us with the vibration and frequency of initiation. The cardinal mode is all about beginning again, starting anew, taking action, and taking initiative. So with this full moon in Aries, so we're coming out of this Venus retrograde, the demand on all of our energies is take the win, keep it moving. Do not stop. Do not slow down. This is not the time to wallow in how awful your Venus retrograde was in the last 2 months. This is the time to get up, integrate the lesson, and get going, because there's a lot of really good stuff in front of us if we're willing to honor that, yes, we learned something and it's time to move. And big growth opportunities here. Some of this can be revelation of like where we've been stunted. Could be slightly uncomfortable to see. It's never like easy to look at in the mirror how and where we may have undermined ourselves, but nevertheless, this full moon is going to reveal some of our crutches or where we have settled for less than our full potential being fulfilled. Big chance here with that cardinal T-square to take corrective action, cardinal signs again, action that further aligns us with our truth and aligns us with our manifestations that we want to bring to life. This kind of full moon, it has the opportunity to expose where we feel entitled to staying wounded, or I have a right to stay wounded mentality, where yes, we've had a wounding experience, but that's not who we are. We aren't what we've been through, and we're not who we were on our worst day. This full moon gives us opportunities and pathways to complete cycles of not stepping up to the plate of our truth. Okay. Now, if you haven't listened yet to the eclipse update that I just posted, it's all good about the Aries Libra eclipse cycle. Understand, like I said, that this particular full moon in Aries is a setup. The planets are going to work overtime to help us in our relationship sector, because that new moon, lunar eclipse, new moon, solar eclipse taking place at the new moon in Libra on October 14th. That's going to be kind of like the beginning, like a prelude, the opening act. The 2 eclipses this year are basically like opening acts for major relationship breakthroughs and opportunities and love and business partnership as we get into 2024. But it is going to require being willing to see ourselves with a level of truthfulness and authenticity. That's Aries. Aries is kind of known for being so truthful. Sometimes they have their foot in their mouth. We're going to be able to see things about ourselves that we have previously overlooked or allowed to exist in our blind spots because it supported and protected a worldview that other people need to change. Other people need to not bring red balls in my space. Other people need to respond to my text message the minute I text them. Otherwise, I'm going to go to pieces because something could be wrong. Other people have to shift. Where we've got these kind of blind spot ideas about the way other people have to be or should be in order to make us feel safe and secure. That kind of stuff will have showed itself over the Venus retrograde. It is going to continue to expose itself now at this full moon in Aries. And it's going to allow us to get out of the pattern of not healing or not growing. And then moving into patterns of either waiting in love or giving up in connection, where if the truth is, if we would just be willing to grow and really deal with the healing that needs to happen, the truth is that what our heart revealed to us, there's something beautiful here. There's something possible for us here. There's opportunities in love here, either with someone you know or someone you've met previously. So, or someone you're about to meet. So this is a real big get out of your own way full moon with this kind of energy in a T-square formation from these asteroids. Like I said, it's going to be very personal in many ways. Okay. And the opportunity for love really does unfold with that solar eclipse because it's new beginning. It'll be in Libra, which is all about partnership and relationship, coming up 2 weeks from now. Really big deal. I really love to see it. But that new beginning energy is there caveat, if we're each willing to get out of our own ways. So if you want to look at how to do this in your situation, now is the time to book with me over at K Moon Astro. I got this full moon in Aries video out as early as I could with time available on my calendar before the eclipse energy hits, so that we have an opportunity for you to, if you're missing anything, go over your patterns, look at where you're blocked, see what you've been repeating, and finally get the breakthrough out of that so that you're capable of moving forward. The thing about me is that a lunation like this is really my sweet spot. I'm known for being able to see where you may be hiding from yourself and get you in our session out of your own way. Now, be forewarned, I'll be really honest with you. My reputation is as a loving hard ass. You're going to leave with absolute clarity about where the work is, where the tools are, and how you can use this full moon and the eclipse on the 14th and the entire eclipse cycle about to get where you want to be in love. Because like I said in the eclipse update that I just published, this eclipse cycle, the Aries Libra eclipse cycle, Aries and Libra are our relationship axis. So we can harness this for you to get you on a completely new timeline. If you're ready to get out of your own way, you're done with repetitive cycles, and you want crystal clarity about how to do that and be on the other side come the final eclipse next year, then now's the time to book with me over at K Moon Astro. Okay. This whole cycle is drawing us into our authentic selves. And the reason why it's so authenticity focused is because of the way the North Node rests in Aries over the cycle. Just entered Aries this year. It's going to be with us in Aries through next year before it gets into Pisces. With the North Node in Aries, the North Node represents our direction of growth. And when the direction of growth for us collectively is in the sign of the self, the sign of authenticity, that's what we're all moving toward. Greater individuation, greater authenticity, greater understanding of our individuality, and celebrating it, really lifting ourselves up and accepting and seeing and celebrating who we each really are. Okay. So if you want some support getting out of your own way, because the you that you've been is not rendering the relationships that you want, you know where to find me. Link is below this video. Let's have a look at some of the other supporting aspects at this lunation. So we're almost complete. Venus is almost out of shadow. We're going to talk more about her in a moment. But Mercury is also coming out of shadow. Mercury has been in retrograde as well. It was almost like this. We had this major Pluto retrograde. Then within that, we had like this Venus retrograde time. And then within that, we've had this Mercury retrograde that's now complete as well. And so Venus and Mercury are still coming out of shadow. We'll talk about that Pluto retrograde in a moment. But in shadow with Venus and Mercury, this is our opportunity to really act on the themes that showed themselves during the retrograde cycle and make the necessary corrections. Okay. With Mercury out of retrograde and specifically Mercury harmonizing with Jupiter and Uranus up here in Taurus, all three of them in earth signs. This is bringing mental fortitude, big ideas, new strategy, optimism, and who couldn't use some optimism after the late summer retrograde season, especially when it comes to ways to enhance our lives in tangible, real, strategic, hands-on methods and areas. Also, this will be a really great time to make some adjustments when it comes to both mental health and physical health, as Taurus and Virgo specifically deal with health, and Mercury in its own deals with our mental consciousness. It'll also be an opportunity to make some changes, real tangible changes with our money. Taurus specifically deals with values and also with cash flow. So if there are things that the retrograde revealed to you, yeah, in my business, I need to do X, Y, or Z. In my career, I definitely need to either apply for a promotion or a raise or seek out a new job. This isn't working for me financially. This is the moment to get in action. Now back to Venus. We've got this Venus speaking in harmony here with Lilith and with Juno out here in Leo, the sign that deals with our sovereignty and creative authority. This is cementing the lessons in love or money from our Venus retrograde season, echoing with the full moon how we need to partner with ourselves to lock in our up level, since Leo is self-sovereignty and the full moon here in Aries deals with our individual authenticity. They are in a sextile to Mars. Here's our friend Mars here. And I like sextiles because they don't let us go overboard with passion. Sextiles ask us and invite us to be a bit more measured and to move in a motivated way, Mars's motivation, to balance things out within ourselves and with other people. And Mars in Libra definitely means we're dealing with other people. Juno specifically is about marriage and business and contract commitment specifically. She's about that contract to commit. And so with Mars in conversation from our relationship sign, Venus and Juno are specifically the rulers of that relationship sign, Libra. There's an influence here that's giving us motivation to jump into where we need to be. I like to see this, especially as, you know, it's a harbinger of good things to come for all of the striking workers worldwide. Definitely a starting point. Like I said, there's enough of you commented. You did want a strike video, so I will put one together for you after this. Okay. So, yeah, this is a good sign of negotiations and talks for contracts coming together that really honor and respect all parties at the table. All right. Let's see what else. The square to Uranus and Jupiter that I mentioned is going to add a little bit of tension and stress, but within that, there's opportunity and motivation. Squares provide just the right amount of discomfort to facilitate creativity. Okay, so there will be some creative solutions with the people that we are in projects on with regard to either love or money in order to progress coming forward at this time. Now that the retrogrades are complete, the issues and the lessons have been exposed, and we're ready to get back to working on things, so to speak. Now, we also have Mercury in opposition to Neptune. Okay, Neptune is the force that deals with things that we can't control. It's also the spiritual realm, the unseen realm. With Mercury in opposition to Neptune, Mercury representing consciousness, this combo can lend itself to the type of uncertainty that's a breeding ground for reactivity or addictive behaviors or kind of making stuff up like rumors or gossip or kind of like mental fogginess is another way to put it. So be sure to put your support systems in place if you know that you're prone to reactivity in atmospheres of uncertainty, because there's definitely Mercury and Neptune when they get in conversation. Uncertainty is part of the picture, but it's in the realm of uncertainty that we're allowed to start to think very creatively about possibility, because things aren't as concretely cemented in our consciousness. So that's one of the gifts of this transit, is there's real opportunity for those who are energetically sensitive. You may find it's very easy to pick up on the thoughts and feelings of others, their unspoken sentiments. Further, this is a great energy for artists and creatives, one where it's much easier to make your channeled ideas and inspirations real. And it's important to go into this full moon with a very clear head to make the most of the creative momentum that will come through. So if you know that there are things, either activities or people that you might hang out with that tend to kind of muddy the waters for you a little bit, but you are wanting to pull down creative insight in a constructive way, or you're wanting to channel, or you're wanting to, foster some of the things that you need, like do what you have to do to create appropriate boundaries so that you don't, if you're a mergy person, you don't get too vibrationally mergy with people, especially for those of you out there who are readers. Okay. This is a really good time. You're going to need to kind of keep your wits about you in order to make the most of this creative energy coming through, so that you're able to harmonize with your creativity without getting so lost in the collective sauce, so to speak, or spun out, because the Mercury opposite Neptune can have us all a little bit spinning. And as I've been reporting, we've got Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus out here changing lives. It's the best way I can put it. They are out here to change our lives for the better, but it is going to be a process. Okay, so the thing that's most important to understand about this being a process is that it's going to take several years because they move so slow. Pluto is at the tail end of Aquarius. This is permanent endings and new beginnings that look completely different than what was previously going on. Neptune is at the tail end of Pisces. This is things that we can't control, moving in a direction that we may not necessarily be able to see. It's an energy that requires being able to partner through prayer or faith with the unseen realm. And Uranus here at the tail end of Taurus. Taurus representing the physical world and our physical bodies, money and values. Uranus is out here inviting us, or maybe not even inviting us, dictating to us that there will be changes when it comes to our insights and revelations about these things and how we're going to interact with these things. Permanent changes in many cases because of Pluto's influence and them being in conversation together. I do like to see this because, I've been hearing since the beginning of the year, all people in their right places, in my quiet and prayer and meditation time, that there's a movement to assist people in getting them to the place that has been shown to them in their hearts, where they're meant to be, where God wants them to be. There's real movement here supporting us from the planetary side, the universe side, the unseen realm, to help us do that. But in order for that to happen, full moons like this really demand for us to take a good hard look at our participation levels in getting there. And so, my invitation for you is, as you consider this full moon, to have, if there were things during the Venus or the Mercury retrograde that may have been a bit of a challenge, consider that what if some of the things that were unfolded to help you get to where it is you said you wanted to be? How is this working for you instead of against you? And how can you, like I said in the beginning, dust yourself off, get up, and get in action? Aries is all about action to get to the next step. If you heard something that resonates, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, welcome. And I'm going to do now first look, which is an opportunity to preview the lunar eclipse that's coming up here momentarily. Or sorry, the solar eclipse in Libra coming up here at the new moon on October 14th. So I'm just going to pull that chart up now so we can all have a look at it. Amazing. Okay, so here is our solar eclipse on October 14th, new moon in Libra. Got a nice Libra stellium going on here where we've got the Shaman's asteroid Pallas, both still there from the preceding full moon in Aries. We've got Mercury now finally fully out of his retrograde zone. Venus now finally out of her retrograde zone. We've got the sun and the moon, typical at a new moon. But what's interesting is we've got the south node right here and the creation goddess and Mars. The whole gang is here. It's so fun to see so much energy in a cardinal sign. With so much energy in a cardinal sign, especially in the cardinal sign that deals with relationships, this is going to be the beginning of a pretty significant relationship season for a lot of people, especially as Venus and Juno, rulers of the sign of relationship, make it to this particular new moon solar eclipse point. I think it'll be about 30 days, but I'm just going to double check for us so that we know for sure. Nope, they're still in Virgo 30 days away. Let's just give it 60 days. Sometimes eclipses do take that long for it to really show fruition. Yep. And then Venus arrives at that eclipse point right by American Thanksgiving time. And you'll hear most astrologers say that you can feel eclipse energy 60 days before, up to 60 days after. And this is certainly heightened eclipse energy as we get ourselves pretty darn close to the 60-day after energy, with Venus arriving at the solar eclipse point, the ruling planet of the solar eclipse. So, some of it looks a bit like a slow burn, gonna be honest. But what I like to see here is how much mercurial energy and shaman's asteroid and palace energy is in the mix, because this lets me know that from a stance of consciousness, if something is coming in from either a past life or past in this life, since we've got a nice conjunction with the south node, which represents our pasts, if something's coming in from a past life or past in this life, we're coming at it from a brand new place. Shaman's asteroid here in Libra indicates that we're coming to it from a place of having integrated some significant lessons with Mercury here consciously. We know what we need to do differently in order to have the kind of relationships we want. So this would be one of the major, I would say, romantic turning points in the tail end of the year, or romantic highlights to the tail end of the year for anyone who's trying to cultivate or call in love and relationship. This full moon in Aries and the solar eclipse new moon in Libra are definitely periods of time where you want to, like I said, know what's in your blind spot, course correct, and take some new action. Because with this, you're going to have the opportunity to start a whole new chapter in love. And if you need any help with that at all, overcoming patterns, either within yourself, or with other people, or with a specific person, you can always book with me over at kmoonastro.com. I can walk you through what in your chart has lent itself to the pattern, what you can do to overcome it, and the choices available to you next. Looking forward to chatting with you. Take great care, and bye for now.